The bright lights of the command deck reflected off Captain John Miller's face as he watched the alien ship approach. His fingers tapped nervously on the arm of his chair. This was humanity's big moment. First official contact with the Galactic Concord. "They're hailing us, sir," said Communications Officer Lisa Chen. Miller straightened his uniform and nodded. "Put them on screen." The main display flickered to life. 3 aliens appeared, one tall and thin with gray skin, another squat with multiple eyes, and a third that looked almost plant-like, with green tendrils instead of hair. "I am Captain John Miller of the Earth Defense Fleet flagship *Defiance*. On behalf of humanity, we welcome you to our solar system," Miller said with a practiced smile. The gray alien stepped forward. "I am High Emissary Krell of the Galactic Concord. We have been monitoring your broadcasts for some time." Ambassador Olivia Wright, who stood beside Miller, stepped forward. She was chosen specifically for this meeting because of her skill with words. "We're honored to finally meet representatives of the wider galactic community," she said. "We have prepared quarters for your delegation and hope to discuss." "There is little to discuss," Krell interrupted. "We have studied your history. Humans are primitive warmongers. Your entertainment glorifies violence. Your nations still fight each other. Your technology is developed primarily for military purposes." Miller and Wright exchanged confused glances. "With respect, Emissary Krell," Wright said carefully, "our history is complex, but we've made great progress toward peace and cooperation. We'd like the chance to show you." "The Concord has made its assessment," the plant-like alien interrupted. 17 species have joined our coalition. All follow our guidance and benefit from our protection. "What exactly are you proposing?" Miller asked, a feeling of unease growing in his stomach. Krell's thin lips formed what might have been a smile. "Earth will dismantle its military forces and accept Concord guidance. In exchange, you will receive limited access to our technology and trade networks." "And if we refuse?" Miller asked. "Then you will remain isolated. No trade, no exchange of knowledge, no protection from other threats that lurk in the darkness between stars." Wright tried again. "Perhaps we could discuss a more gradual approach to integration that respects Earth's sovereignty while your world has resources we require." The multi-eyed alien blurted out before being silenced by a sharp look from Krell. Miller's eyes narrowed. Now they were getting to the truth. "So this isn't about peace or cooperation," he said. "It's about taking our resources and using our people." "You misunderstand," Krell said smoothly. "We merely wish to uplift your species, guide you toward a more peaceful existence, but this requires your complete cooperation." Miller stood up straight. "Earth doesn't surrender its freedom to anyone. We're willing to join as equals, not as servants." The aliens exchanged glances. Krell's expression hardened. "We will give you 5 standard rotations to reconsider. The terms will not improve with time." The screen went dark. "Well, that went poorly," Wright sighed. Miller turned to his executive officer, Paul Rivera. "Send a priority message to Earth Command. Tell them exactly what just happened here." "You think they'll attack?" Rivera asked quietly. Miller looked at the alien ship through the viewport. "I think they've been planning to from the start. The only question is when." As the alien delegation returned to their ship, Miller watched them go with a growing sense of determination. If the Galactic Concord wanted Earth's submission, they were in for a surprise. Humanity had faced threats before. They had survived wars, disasters, and their own worst impulses. They would not be conquered without a fight. And if there was one thing humans knew how to do well, it was fight. The aliens would learn that soon enough. 5 years passed since the tense first meeting with the Galactic Concord. On the surface, Earth appeared to be following the aliens' demands. Old military bases were demolished. Warships were publicly scrapped. News channels showed the disarming of nuclear weapons. But deep beneath the Martian surface, humanity was preparing. Director Samantha Hayes walked through the massive underground facility, her footsteps echoing on the metal floor. Workers moved quickly around her, building ships that would never see daylight until they were needed. How much longer? She asked Chief Engineer Alan Garcia, who was checking readings on a tablet. The first fleet will be ready in 3 months, he replied, pushing his glasses up his nose. The stealth systems are working better than expected. The Concorde sensors won't detect them until it's too late. Hayes nodded. Operation Sleeping Giant was the biggest secret humanity had ever kept. While Earth seemed to be obeying the Concorde, the real work happened in hidden bases across the solar system. Mars held the shipyards. Europa housed the training facilities. Asteroid bases produced weapons and supplies. And the shield technology? Hayes asked. Garcia smiled. Dr. Peterson made a breakthrough last week. We've reverse-engineered the fragments from the Concorde ship and improved them. Our shields are now twice as strong as theirs. In another part of the facility, Admiral John Miller, promoted after the first contact incident, studied battle plans with his officers. His face had more lines now, his hair more gray. The Concorde thinks we're weak, he told the group. They watch our planet, but they don't understand humans. We don't give up easily. Sir, a young officer named Steve Rogers asked, what if they never attack? What if we're preparing for nothing? Miller's eyes hardened. The Concorde has done this before. Ambassador Wright's team found records from other worlds. They come with demands, then take everything while pretending to help. They've conquered 17 species this way. We won't be the 18th. Back on Earth, President Eli Washington sat in a secret bunker beneath the White House. Reports from Mars and other colonies filled his screen. The Concorde observers believed he was just another figurehead with no real power. The Concorde representative is here, Mr. President, his aide said. Washington straightened his tie. These meetings were a game of pretend. He would smile, nod, and appear grateful for the Concorde's guidance, all while Earth prepared in secret. The tall gray alien entered the room. President Washington, I bring new directives from the Concorde Council. Of course, emissary, Washington said with a fake smile. We're always eager to hear the Concorde's wisdom. As the alien droned on about new restrictions, Washington thought of the fleet growing in the darkness of space, of the weapons being forged in secret, of humanity's determination to remain free. On the dark side of Europa, Dr. Lauren Peterson worked through another night. Her quantum weapon project was close to completion. If it worked, it would change everything. Running final test, she told her team as they activated the prototype. The device hummed, then sent out an invisible pulse. Every piece of Concorde technology in the room went dead. Peterson smiled. It works. Send word to Hayes. Across the solar system, humanity prepared in silence. The Concorde thought they were dealing with a broken, submissive species. They didn't realize that humans were just waiting, growing stronger in the shadows. The sleeping giant was almost ready to wake. The attack came without warning. One moment, Earth's skies were clear. The next, they filled with hundreds of Concorde warships, appearing suddenly from hyperspace jumps. In his office at Earth Defense Headquarters, Admiral Miller watched the emergency signals light up his screens. This was the moment they had prepared for, though it came sooner than expected. They're targeting our remaining defense platforms, reported his second-in-command. Ground forces are landing near major cities. Miller's face showed no fear, only determination. Send the signal. With that simple command, humanity's trap was sprung. Hidden defense platforms, disguised as communication satellites and space debris, suddenly activated around Earth. They fired at the surprised Concorde ships, causing immediate damage. High Commander Zorax of the Draconid species watched from his flagship as human defenses responded. His reptilian face twisted in surprise. Impossible, he hissed. Our intelligence said they disarmed. His lieutenant checked the readings. Sir, we're detecting new energy signatures. They have shield technology similar to ours. Zorax slammed his clawed hand on his command chair. These primitives tricked us. In orbit around Neptune, Admiral Miller's real fleet powered up. 100 stealth ships, hidden for years, now moved toward Earth. Miller stood on the bridge of his flagship, now renamed Defiance I. All ships, battle formation Alpha, he ordered. Remember your training. Today we fight for our freedom. The human fleet approached from behind, catching the Concorde forces in a pincer movement. Their advanced weapons, developed in secret, tore through alien shields that weren't prepared for them. On Earth, the situation was chaotic. Alien dropships landed in cities worldwide. In Chicago, Colonel Kate Simmons led the resistance. Her soldiers had trained for years, disguised as police and civilian workers. They expect us to run and hide, she told her fighters as they prepared to ambush a Concorde patrol. But we're going to show them how humans fight on their home ground. The aliens moved through the city streets with confidence, not bothering to check buildings or alleyways. They didn't expect resistance. That was their mistake. Simmons gave the signal. From windows, doorways, and rooftops, her fighters opened fire with weapons designed to penetrate Concorde armor. The aliens fell before they could react. Move positions, Simmons ordered. Hit and run, just like we practiced. Her teams melted away into buildings and underground tunnels before enemy reinforcements arrived. When the Concorde troops came, they found only their dead comrades and no targets to shoot. In space, the battle intensified. The Concorde had more ships, but the human vessels were faster and had better shields. Admiral Miller's flagship targeted the Concorde command ships, disrupting their ability to coordinate. "Sir, the enemy is regrouping," his tactical officer reported. "They're pulling back to form a defensive line." Miller smiled grimly. They didn't expect a fight. They thought we'd surrender. At his command center on Earth, President Washington addressed emergency broadcasts to people worldwide. "Citizens of Earth, the invasion we prepared for has begun," he said calmly. "But we are ready. For 5 years, we've worked in secret. Our forces are engaging the enemy in space and on the ground. Stay in your emergency shelters. Follow your training. Humanity will not fall today." Across the solar system, the hidden human forces emerged from their secret bases. The Concorde had expected an easy conquest, but instead found themselves facing a prepared and determined enemy. High Commander Orcs stared at the battle reports in disbelief. How could these primitives have hidden so much from us? The answer was simple. The Concorde had underestimated humanity's will to remain free, and that was a mistake they would soon regret. 2 weeks into the war, Ambassador Olivia Wright sat in a small, dimly lit room on a secret space station hidden in the asteroid belt. Across from her sat a being unlike any human had seen before. It had blue skin that seemed to shimmer, 4 arms, and eyes that changed color as it spoke. "I am Centaur of the Verity," the alien said. "Like you, my people refused to bow to the Concorde. Unlike you, we were not prepared when they came." Wright leaned forward. "The Concorde told us we were alone in our resistance." Centaur made a sound like bitter laughter. "They tell all species the same lie. There are 7 of us who fight from the shadows. We call ourselves the Phalanx." Around the table sat representatives from 6 other species. Some looked almost human, others were completely alien, but all shared the same determined look in their eyes. "For centuries, the Concorde has conquered worlds using the same method," continued Centaur. "They offer peace but demand submission. Those who refuse face war. Those who surrender become slaves in all but name." A reptilian being named Krelvor spoke next. "My homeworld was stripped of resources. My people work in Concorde mines and factories. We live, but we are not free." Wright felt a chill. This could have been Earth's fate. "We have been watching your resistance," said Centaur. "You fight well, better than any have fought before. We wish to join you." Back on the Defiance I*, Admiral Miller received Wright's message about the potential alliance. He called a meeting with his top officers. "Can we trust them?" asked Commander Ryan Bishop, head of fighter operations. Ambassador Wright thinks so, Miller replied. And right now, we need all the help we can get. The war wasn't going as well as they had hoped. Despite humanity's preparations, the Concorde had numbers on their side. Fresh enemy ships arrived daily. The Phalanx has provided intelligence on Concorde fleet movements, Miller told his officers, pointing to a holographic map. They've identified a forward command post here, in the asteroid belt. It's coordinating all Concorde supply lines. Bishop studied the map. If we could hit that, we could disrupt their entire operation. Exactly, Miller nodded. That's why I'm putting you in charge of Operation Thunderstrike. Take your best pilots and your new stealth fighters. Hit them where they least expect it. Bishop's squadron prepared for the mission. Their fighters were the best humanity had built, small, fast, and nearly invisible to Concorde sensors. The 20 pilots knew this could change the course of the war. We only get one shot at this, Bishop told them before takeoff. Make it count. Their fighters slipped past Concorde patrols, using paths provided by Phalanx intelligence. When they reached the command post, a massive station built into an asteroid, they struck hard and fast. Bishop targeted the communications arrays while other pilots hit power systems and defense platforms. The Concorde, caught completely by surprise, couldn't respond effectively. All targets destroyed, Bishop reported as his squadron regrouped. Minimal losses. Mission successful. On Earth, Director Hayes met with Centaur and President Washington. The blue alien shared detailed files on Concorde weaknesses, command structures, and technologies. With this information, Dr. Peterson can perfect her Prometheus protocol, Hayes said, excitement in her voice. Washington looked at their new ally. Why help us now? Why not earlier? Centaur's eyes shifted to a deep purple. Because you have done what none of us could do alone. You have hurt them. For the first time in centuries, the Concorde fears, and fear makes them vulnerable. As the alliance grew stronger, humanity gained new hope. They were no longer fighting alone. Across the galaxy, other subjugated species watched and waited, ready to join the fight, once they saw the Concorde could be defeated. The war was far from over, but the balance was beginning to shift. 6 months into the war, Earth was holding its ground, but just barely. The Concorde attacks had become more desperate and violent. 3 human colonies had been destroyed. Cities on Earth lay in ruins. In her underground laboratory on Europa, Dr. Lauren Peterson hadn't slept in days. Her eyes were red, her hands shaky, but her mind remained sharp. The Prometheus protocol was almost complete. Run the final test, she ordered her team. They activated the device, which hummed softly. On a table nearby, several pieces of Concorde technology sat connected to sensors. One by one, they powered down. Peterson allowed herself a small smile. It works. Call Director Hayes immediately. The Prometheus protocol was humanity's secret weapon, a system that could send out a specialized energy pulse that would disable Concorde technology without harming organic life. With help from the Phalanx, Peterson had finally perfected it. On the Defiance I*, Admiral Miller received the news during a grim strategy meeting. His officers looked exhausted. The constant battles had taken their toll. Peterson's done it, he announced. The Prometheus protocol is ready for deployment. Commander Bishop, his face now scared from a recent battle, leaned forward. How soon can we use it? That's the problem, Miller replied. It needs to be deployed from multiple points simultaneously to cover enough area. And the Concorde is planning something big. Our spies report that High Commander Zorax is called in their main fleet. Intelligence Officer Ben Harris pulled up a holographic map. They're gathering here, near Jupiter. It's their largest force yet. Miller studied the map, his mind racing. Then that's where we'll hit them. We'll deploy the Prometheus protocol during their attack. The plan was risky. Human forces would need to get close enough to deploy the weapon without being destroyed first. but it was their best chance. As Earth prepared, High Commander Zorax grew increasingly frustrated. The war was taking too long. The Concord Council demanded results. "These humans are unlike any species we've encountered," he told his officers. "They should have surrendered months ago." His tactical advisor approached nervously. "Sir, perhaps we should consider a different approach." Zorax bared his sharp teeth. "No more tactics. We will crush them with overwhelming force. Prepare the planet killers." The threat reached Earth through Phalanx spies. President Washington called an emergency meeting. "Zorax is threatening to use planet killer weapons against our colonies unless we surrender," he told the gathered leaders. Admiral Miller's face hardened. "This is their desperation. They know we're hurting them." Ambassador Wright, who had been working with the Phalanx, spoke up. "We can use this against them. The Concord tells its member worlds that they're peacekeepers. Many don't know the truth about how they operate." Washington nodded slowly. "We'll show them the truth." The next day, as the Concord fleet gathered near Jupiter, President Washington broadcast a message to every world in Concord space. Using communication codes provided by the Phalanx, he bypassed Concord sensors. "People of the galaxy," he began, "you have been told that Earth is dangerous, that humans are warmongers. But the truth is simpler. We simply refuse to be slaves." The broadcast showed evidence of Concord atrocities, of conquered worlds stripped of resources, of species working as little more than slaves. As the message spread, reports came in of uprisings on several Concord worlds. Their carefully crafted image was crumbling. Zorax, in rage, ordered an immediate attack on Earth. "End this now," he commanded. As the massive Concord fleet moved toward Earth, Admiral Miller gave the order: "Deploy the Prometheus Protocol." From hidden positions around Jupiter, human ships activated Peterson's device. A wave of energy washed across space. Throughout the Concord fleet, ships suddenly lost power, weapons went offline, and systems failed. For the first time in centuries, the mighty Concord Armada drifted helpless in space. The turning point had arrived. The Great Hall on Luna Base was packed with representatives from across the galaxy. Once a simple research facility, it had been transformed into a makeshift courtroom. In the center sat High Commander Zorax, his massive form restrained by special cuffs. His capture had been the final blow to Concord resistance. Admiral Miller stood at the window, looking out at Earth glowing blue and green in the distance. The planet showed scars from the war, but it had survived. Humanity had prevailed against all odds. "It's time," Ambassador Wright said, touching his shoulder gently. "They're waiting for us." The Galactic Tribunal was Wright's idea. Instead of simply defeating the Concord, humanity would expose their crimes to the entire galaxy. Representatives from 27 species had gathered to witness it. The proceedings were broadcast on all known communication channels. Wright walked to the center of the hall, her voice calm and clear. "This tribunal is not about revenge. It's about truth and justice. For centuries, the Concord has presented itself as a force for peace and unity. Today, we will show what lies beneath that mask." Former slaves took the stand one by one. A thin, gray-skinned Alaxian described how his world was stripped of resources. A bird like Corvani explained how her people were forced to work in Concord factories. Video evidence showed Concord forces destroying settlements that resisted. Through it all, Zorax sat in silent defiance. When finally called to speak, he rose to his full height. "You understand nothing," he growled. "The galaxy needs order. Weak species must be controlled for their own good." "And who decides who is weak?" Wright asked. "The strong do," Zorax replied without hesitation. "That is the natural law. Humans should have surrendered like all others before them. You are dangerous because you are unpredictable. You don't know your proper place." A murmur ran through the crowd. Even Concord loyalists looked uncomfortable at the naked admission. Admiral Miller stepped forward. His uniform was neat, but his face showed the toll of the war. "I've seen what happens to those who surrender to the Concord," he said, his voice carrying across the hall. "I've seen worlds stripped bare. I've met people whose cultures were erased. That is not peace. That is not unity. That is conquest and enslavement." He turned to face the cameras, speaking to the billions watching across the galaxy. "We will never surrender our freedom. We fought not just for ourselves, but for all beings who wish to determine their own destiny. This is not a conquest, it's liberation." The hall erupted in applause. Even species who had been loyal to the Concord couldn't deny the evidence of its crimes. President Washington rose next to deliver the tribunal's decision. "The Concord's governing council is hereby dissolved. All occupied worlds are freed from its control. Reparations will be paid from Concord assets." Zorax snarled. "You think this ends with me? There will always be those who seek to rule. The strong will always dominate the weak." Wright stepped close to him. "Perhaps, but today it was the supposedly weak who defeated the strong. Remember that, Zorax." As the tribunal ended, representatives from different worlds approached Miller and Wright. Many had questions about forming a new galactic organization, one based on mutual respect and true cooperation. "We have much to learn from each other," said Centaur, now speaking openly as a free being. "But first, we must heal what the Concord has broken." Miller nodded. "Earth will help however we can, but we won't lead or control. The galaxy must find its own path forward." As the hall emptied, Miller stood again at the window, looking at Earth. The war had changed humanity forever. They were no longer alone in the universe. They had proven their strength. Now they would need to prove their wisdom. The hardest part was still to come. 1 year after the fall of the Concord, Earth hosted the first summit of the new Galactic Assembly. The rebuilt United Nations headquarters in Geneva buzzed with activity as representatives from 34 species gathered to discuss the future. The Great Hall was a marvel of both human and alien design. Sunlight streamed through crystal windows gifted by the crystalline Lemurians. The air was filled with a mix of earth flowers and plants from a dozen worlds, creating a perfect atmosphere for all species. President Eli Washington stood at the podium. Older now, his hair grayer, but his eyes still bright with hope. "1 year ago, we were fighting for our survival," he began. "Today, we meet as equals, as friends, to build something new together." In the audience, Admiral Miller sat beside Ambassador Wright. They exchanged a small smile. Their work had made this possible, though the cost had been high. Earth accepts its position in galactic society with humility and pride. Washington continued, "We have much to learn from our new friends, but we also have much to offer." The assembly would function differently from the Concord. Each species had an equal voice. Decisions required broad consensus. No single group could impose its will on others. It was democracy on a galactic scale. After the formal speeches, Miller found Wright on a balcony overlooking the city. "Did you ever think we'd make it this far?" he asked. "There were moments I doubted," she admitted, "but I never doubted humanity's spirit." Miller nodded. "The hard part starts now. Peace is always more difficult than war. That's why we need the monument," Wright said, "to remind everyone what happens when peace fails." The next day, a special ceremony took place at the edge of the solar system. A massive ship carried dignitaries to witness the unveiling of humanity's message to the stars. The monument was an enormous obelisk made of black material that absorbed almost all light. It floated in space, anchored at a point where all ships entering the solar system would see it. Miller and Wright stood before the gathered crowd. Together, they activated the monument. The black surface came to life, displaying words in all known languages of the galaxy. Wright read the message aloud. "We came in peace, hoping for friendship. We were met with threats of subjugation. Remember what followed. Humanity wishes to extend its hand in cooperation to all who seek honest alliance, but we stand armed and ready against any who would threaten our freedom or that of others. This is our first and last warning. The words glowed against the darkness of space, a promise and a warning combined. 6 months later, Lieutenant Daniel Foster stood watch at the new frontier outpost near the monument. His job was to greet ships entering the solar system and to ensure the monument remained functional. Foster watched as a trading vessel from a distant system slowed to read the message. It was a routine he had seen many times now. "Another first-timer?" asked Sergeant Alice Reed, joining him at the view screen. Foster nodded. "They always slow down to read it." "Do you think anyone will ever test us again?" she asked. Foster looked at the distant Earth, barely visible as a bright star from this distance. He thought of the stories his father had told him about the war, about the sacrifices made. "I hope not," he said quietly. "But if they do, we'll be ready." The monument continued its silent vigil, spinning slowly in the void. It was more than just a warning. It was a promise that humanity had found its place among the stars. They had come as equals, ready to build friendship with those who offered the same. But they would never again face threats unprepared. The stars stretched out before them, full of possibilities. Humanity's future was just beginning.